The wind rolled across the open fields like it had something to say. Serafina Wren Calloway sat on the old wooden fence, her boots dusty, her jeans worn, her heart tired. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of gold and fire. But she didn't notice it anymore. She used to love sunsets. Now they just reminded her how fast something beautiful could disappear. Behind her, the ranch stretched wide, horses grazing, the smell of hay in the air, the quiet hum of country life. It should have felt like peace. But it didn't, because inside her, there was a storm. Why are you always like this? The voice snapped through her thoughts. Derek, her boyfriend. If you could call him that. He leaned against the truck, arms crossed, jaw tight. Everything about him felt heavy lately. His tone, his words, the way he looked at her like she was never enough. I'm just sitting here, Sarah said quietly. That's the problem. You're always just sitting. You don't think. You don't do anything right. His words hit like stones. Not loud, not explosive, just constant, and somehow that hurt worse. Sarah swallowed hard, staring down at her hands. Once upon a time, Derek used to make her laugh, used to call her beautiful, used to hold her like she mattered. Now she felt invisible, unless he was criticizing her. You're lucky I even stay with you, he added. That one landed deep because a part of her believed it. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, Proverbs 18:21. She didn't know that verse yet, but she was living it. Every word he spoke was shaping how she saw herself. Later that night, Sarah sat in her room staring at her phone. One message, from the only person she thought she could count on. Maddie, her best friend. Sarah typed slowly. Hey, can we talk? The reply came quick. I'm busy. Not everything is about you. Sarah blinked. That didn't feel like Maddie, so she tried again. I just had a rough day, typing bubble. Then, honestly, Sarah, you're exhausting. You always play the victim. Her chest tightened, like something cracked open inside her. Two people, the one she loved, tearing her down, the one she trusted, turning on her. She set the phone down slowly. The room felt quiet, too quiet. That's when the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent, steady, breaking. She walked outside barefoot, the cool dirt pressing against her feet. The sky was darker now, stars beginning to show, and for the first time in a long time, she felt completely alone. What's wrong with me? She whispered. No answer, just wind. She dropped to her knees in the field, not because she was strong, but because she had nothing left. I don't understand, she said, voice shaking. I tried. I really tried. Her hands pressed into the dirt. Tears fell freely now. If you're real, God, if you're real. She paused. That name felt unfamiliar on her lips, but somehow, right. I need help. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart, and saves such as have a contrite spirit. Psalm 34:18. She didn't know it yet. But that moment, that broken, raw, unfiltered prayer, was the beginning of everything. The morning came, but it didn't feel new. It felt heavy, like the night had followed Serafina Sarah Wren Calloway into the daylight and settled somewhere deep inside her chest. The sun rose over the ranch the way it always did, slow, golden, stretching across the open land like a promise. But Sarah didn't feel promise. She felt tired. She stood at the edge of the fence, gripping the wood tighter than she needed to, watching the horses move in the distance. Their freedom used to calm her. Now it reminded her of something she didn't have. Peace. You gonna stand there all day or actually do something useful? The voice came from behind her again. Derek. It was always Derek. She didn't turn right away. not because she didn't hear him, but because she needed one more second of quiet before the storm. "I'm heading to the barn," she said softly, finally turning. He laughed under his breath. "Of course you are. Slow as always." There it was again. Not shouting, not yelling, just cutting. Constant. Like a drip of water that never stopped until it wore you down completely. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. Proverbs 12:25. Sarah had no good words in her life anymore, only ones that made her smaller. Inside the barn, the air was cooler. Dust floated through beams of light breaking through the wooden slats. The smell of hay and leather wrapped around her like something familiar, something safe. At least, it used to be. She reached out, running her hand along the side of her favorite horse, Dakota. The animal let out a soft breath, leaning into her touch. "You don't think I'm a problem, do you?" she whispered. Dakota nudged her shoulder gently. That was enough to make her chest tighten, because even a horse showed her more kindness than the people in her life. Her phone buzzed in her back pocket. She froze for a second. Part of her hoped it was an apology. From someone. Anyone. She pulled it out. Maddie. Her heart lifted, then dropped just as fast. "You still acting dramatic today, or are you normal again?" Sarah stared at the message. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Normal. That word hit her harder than it should have. Because somewhere along the way, she had stopped knowing what normal even felt like. "I'm just trying to get through the day," she typed slowly. The reply came instantly. "Yeah, well, don't bring your mood around me later. I'm not dealing with it." Sarah swallowed. Hard. She remembered when Maddie used to defend her. Used to laugh with her. Used to sit on this very barn floor, talking about dreams and futures and love that felt safe. Now she felt like a burden. To everyone. Better is a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who will be admonished no more. Ecclesiastes 4:13. Sarah didn't understand scripture yet, but she was beginning to live a truth she couldn't name. Not everyone who's been in your life is meant to stay. "Why are you just standing there?" Derek again. Closer this time. Too close. She turned. "I'm working," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You call this working?" He scoffed. "No wonder nobody takes you seriously. Nobody." That word echoed. "I didn't say anything to you," she replied quietly. That was her mistake, speaking. Derek stepped closer, his presence heavy, suffocating. "You always got something to say," he muttered. "Always playing like you're some kind of victim." There it was again. The same accusation Maddie had thrown at her. Victim. Sarah's chest tightened. "I'm not." "Yeah, you are," he cut her off. "Everything's always happening to you, right?" She felt it then. Not just sadness, not just hurt, something deeper, something cracking. As he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. And Sarah had started to believe the worst things about herself. "Maybe I should just leave," she said before she could stop herself. The words slipped out, raw, unfiltered, honest. Derek laughed, actually like it was a joke. "Go ahead," he said, stepping back. "See how far you get without me." That hit deeper than anything else. Because it wasn't just an insult, it was a lie wrapped in control. "You need me. You won't make it without me. No one else wants you." And the worst part? A piece of her believed it. The rest of the day blurred together. Work. Silence. Tension. Unspoken words hanging in the air like a storm that refused to break. By evening, Sarah found herself back in her room. Same walls. Same quiet. Same ache. Her phone lit up again. "Maddie, we're going out tonight. Don't make it weird if you come." Sarah stared at the message. Don't make it weird. Like her existence had become an inconvenience. She typed, "I don't think I'm coming. Scene. No reply. She set the phone down slowly, and for the first time, something shifted. Not big, not loud, but real. A question. Why am I staying in places that break me? The thought scared her, because it meant facing something she'd been avoiding. The truth. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. She didn't feel free yet, not even close. But something inside her was waking up. Later that night, the ranch was quiet again. The sky stretched wide above her, filled with stars that didn't care about her pain, but somehow still felt comforting. She walked back out to the field. Same place as the night before. Same dirt beneath her feet. Same emptiness inside her chest. But this time, she didn't wait as long. She dropped to her knees again. I don't want to feel like this anymore, she whispered. Her voice trembled. I don't want to be this person. Tears fell again, but this time they felt different. Less hopeless, more searching. I don't know how to fix it, she admitted. I don't know what to do. Silence. Wind. Stars. Then, a thought. Not loud, not forced, but clear. You don't have to fix it alone. She froze, her breath caught. I don't know how to do this, she said softly. God, if that's you. Her voice broke. Please don't leave me like this. Call to me, and I will answer you, and show you great and mighty things, which you do not know. Jeremiah 33:3. The wind moved gently across the field, and for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like something was listening. The day didn't start wrong. That was the worst part. It started normal. The sky was clear. The sun rose soft and steady over the ranch. The air felt calm, too calm, like the kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. Sarah stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair slowly. Her reflection looked fine, not broken, not shattered, not exhausted, just fine. But her eyes told the truth. She hadn't slept much. Every word from yesterday replayed in her mind like a song she couldn't turn off. You're exhausting. Nobody takes you seriously. You're lucky I stay with you. Each one planted deep, each one growing roots. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, Proverbs 13:12. And Sarah's heart was getting sicker by the day. Are you coming or not? Derek's voice called from outside. Sharp. Impatient. She took a breath. Yeah, I'm coming. Today was supposed to be simple. Just a small town gathering near the ranch. People from nearby farms, neighbors, familiar faces. The kind of place that used to feel like home. Now, it felt like a stage. And she didn't know what role she was supposed to play anymore. When they arrived, laughter filled the air. Music played softly in the background. People talked, smiled, greeted each other like everything was okay. Sarah stayed close to Derek at first, not because she wanted to, but because she didn't know where else to go. Then she saw her, Maddie, standing with a group of people, laughing, like nothing had happened, like the words she said yesterday didn't exist. For a second, Sarah thought about turning around, leaving, disappearing before anyone noticed she was there. But it was too late. Maddie saw her. Oh, you came. The tone wasn't warm. It wasn't excited. It was flat, almost annoyed. Sarah forced a small smile. Yeah, I just thought. Don't start. Maddie cut her off, rolling her eyes slightly. Please don't make this one of your emotional things today. That hit harder than it should have. Because it wasn't private anymore. People were around. Listening. Watching. I wasn't going to, Sarah said quietly. Maddie smirked. Good. Because honestly, Sarah, it's getting old. A couple of people nearby exchanged glances, not saying anything, but seeing everything. Sarah felt her face grow warm. her chest tighten. "Hey, what's going on over here?" Derek stepped in. Relief flickered inside her for a split second. Maybe, just maybe, he would help. Maddie laughed lightly, just telling Sarah not to turn everything into a drama. Derek looked at Sarah, then chuckled. "Yeah, she does that," he said. Something inside her snapped, not loudly, not visibly, but deeply. "You too?" she whispered. Derek shrugged, just being honest. Honest. There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword. Proverbs 12:18. Every word felt like a blade. And now, they were coming from both sides. "I'm not trying to cause anything," Sarah said, her voice shaking despite her effort to stay calm. "I just wanted to be here." Maddie crossed her arms. Then, act normal. There it was again. That word. Normal. "What does that even mean?" Sarah asked. The question came out louder than she intended. Heads turned. More people watching now. Maddie scoffed. "It means stop acting like everything revolves around your feelings." "I'm not." "Yes, you are," Derek cut in. "You always are." Her breath caught. "I don't feel okay," she said, more honestly than she ever had before. "I haven't felt okay for a long time." Silence fell around them, but not the kind that brings comfort. The kind that exposes you. Maddie shook her head. "Here we go. I'm serious," Sarah said, tears beginning to form. "I've been trying, and it feels like nothing I do is enough for either of you." Derek let out a short laugh. "That's because it's not. That was it. That was the moment. The ground didn't crack open. The sky didn't fall. But something inside her collapsed completely. The spirit of a man will sustain him in sickness, but who can bear a broken spirit? Proverbs 18:14. Her spirit broke. Right there, in front of everyone. Tears spilled over before she could stop them. Not graceful, not controlled, just real. "I gave everything to you," she said, her voice trembling. "To both of you." No response. No softness. No regret. Just silence. Cold. Empty. Then Maddie, the one thing that couldn't be taken back. "Maybe that's your problem, Sarah," she said flatly. "Maybe you're just too much. Too much." Sarah stepped back, like the words physically pushed her. Derek shook his head. "You always make things harder than they need to be. Harder. Too much. Not enough." The contradictions didn't matter anymore. They all led to the same place. She wasn't wanted. Not here. Not with them. Not anywhere. Without another word, she turned and walked away. No one stopped her. That hurt more than anything. The sounds of the gathering faded behind her. Laughter. Music. Life moving on. Without her. Her steps became faster, then unsteady, then breaking. By the time she reached the open field, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She collapsed to her knees. Hard, hands hitting the dirt, breath shaking, heart shattering. Why? The word ripped out of her. Loud, raw, unfiltered. "Why do I feel like this?" Tears streamed down her face, her whole body shaking now. "Why am I never enough?" The question echoed into the open sky, unanswered. Or so it seemed. "I tried," she cried. "I tried to be what they wanted. I tried to be better. I tried to fix myself." Her voice broke completely. "But I don't know who I am anymore." Silence surrounded her. But this time, it felt different. Not empty. Not distant. Still. Like something was waiting. She dropped her head, pressing her hands into the dirt. "I can't do this anymore." Her voice softened, barely a whisper now. "I don't want to live like this." The wind moved gently across the field. And in that moment, at her lowest point, when everything else had fallen apart, she finally said the words that would change everything. Jesus. The name trembled off her lips. Unfamiliar, but powerful. "I don't know you." Tears fell freely. "But if you're real," her voice cracked. "Please, help me." The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart, Psalm 34:18. She stayed there, in the dirt, in the silence, in the breaking. But something had shifted. Because this time, she didn't feel completely alone. Not fully, not anymore. The collapse wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The night felt different. Not quieter, not louder, just deeper. Sarah was still on her knees in the dirt. Her hands pressed into the ground like she was trying to hold herself together, her breathing uneven. Her heart exposed. Everything that could break had broken. The relationship, the friendship, the identity she tried to hold on to, gone. And now there was nothing left between her and the sky. No pretending, no hiding, no strength, just her. And a name she barely understood. Jesus, she whispered it again. Softer this time, but steadier. I don't know how to do this, she said, tears still falling, but no longer frantic. I don't even know what to say. The wind moved gently across the open field, brushing past her like a quiet presence. I don't want to feel like I'm nothing anymore. Her voice cracked again. I don't want to feel like I'm too much, and not enough at the same time. Silence. But it wasn't empty. It felt full, like something unseen had stepped closer. I've been trying to fix everything, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I tried to be what they wanted. I tried to earn love. I tried to hold it all together. Her hands trembled. But I can't do it anymore. And there it was. Not strength, not effort, surrender. My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Sarah didn't know that verse, but she was stepping into it. I need you, she said. Simple, honest, real. The moment those words left her lips, something changed. Not outside, inside. The tightness in her chest loosened. The noise in her mind softened. The weight she had been carrying shifted. She inhaled deeply. And for the first time in what felt like forever, her breath didn't feel heavy. What is this? She whispered. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming. It was gentle, like peace. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:7. Tears still fell, but they were different now. Not just pain, release. I feel. She paused, trying to understand it. I feel calm. That didn't make sense. Nothing in her life had changed. Derek was still Derek. Maddie was still gone. Her world was still broken. But something inside her wasn't. She slowly lifted her head, looking up at the sky, at the endless stretch of stars above her. I don't understand this, she said softly. But I don't feel alone anymore. The wind moved again. Soft, steady. And in that moment, it wasn't just the wind. It felt like presence, not seen, not heard with her ears, but known, deep in her spirit. I've been here, something within her seemed to whisper. Sarah froze, her breath caught, not in fear, but in awe. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. Her hands slowly lifted from the dirt, resting now on her lap, no longer gripping, no longer holding on. I thought I had to earn love, she said, tears quietly streaming. I thought I had to be enough for people to stay. Her voice softened. But you stayed. That realization hit her deeper than anything else had. When she was at her worst, at her lowest, at her most broken, he didn't walk away. He drew near. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. James 4:8. Sarah closed her eyes, not to escape, but to feel. I don't want to go back to who I was, she said. I don't want to keep chasing people who hurt me. Her voice steadied. I want something real. Silence again, but not empty, guiding. Then follow me. The words didn't come from outside. They weren't audible, but they were clear, and they carried weight. Sarah opened her eyes slowly, her heart beating differently now, not racing, not breaking, awakening. How? She whispered. No full answer, Not yet, but something simple came to her mind. Go home. She stood slowly, brushing dirt from her knees. Her body still tired. Her life still uncertain. But her spirit changed. As she walked back toward the house, the night didn't feel so heavy anymore. The darkness didn't feel so consuming. Because now, she carried something inside her. Peace. When she reached her room, everything looked the same. The bed, the walls, the quiet. But she wasn't the same. She sat on the edge of her bed, still, thinking. Then her eyes landed on something she hadn't touched in years. An old Bible, sitting on the shelf, covered in dust. She stared at it for a moment, then slowly reached for it. Her fingers brushed across the cover. I don't even know where to start, she admitted. She opened it anyway, letting the pages fall where they may. Her eyes landed on a verse. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Her breath caught. It felt like it was written for her, like it found her. Tears filled her eyes again. That's exactly how I feel, she whispered. Heavy, tired, worn out, and yet invited. She pulled the Bible closer, holding it gently, like something fragile, like something valuable. I don't understand everything yet, she said, but I want to learn. That was it. Not perfection, not knowledge. Willingness. If anyone wills to do his will, he shall know. John 7:17. Sarah lay back slowly on her bed, the Bible resting on her chest, her breathing calm, her mind quiet, and for the first time in a long time, she fell asleep, without fear, without noise, without the weight of trying to be enough, because she had finally met the one who said she already was loved. The next morning didn't feel loud. It didn't come with answers. It didn't come with everything fixed. But it came differently. Sarah opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she just stared at the ceiling, waiting for the weight, the anxiety, the racing thoughts, the ache in her chest. But it didn't hit the same way. It was still there, faint, but not overwhelming. She sat up slowly. The room looked the same. Nothing had changed around her, but something inside her had shifted. Her eyes dropped to her chest. The Bible still rested there, exactly where she had fallen asleep. She blinked, then gently picked it up. I really did that, she whispered. Last night wasn't a dream. The field, the prayer, the peace. It was real. She pulled her knees in slightly, opening the Bible again. Not out of habit, not out of obligation, out of need. I don't know what I'm doing, she said quietly. But I want to know you. The words felt small, but honest. She flipped a few pages. Her eyes landed again on something that seemed to find her instead of the other way around. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Proverbs 3:5, 6 Geva. She read it once. Then again. Don't lean on my understanding, she repeated. That hit her, because her understanding had led her into pain. Trusting Derek, holding on to Maddie, believing she had to earn love. None of it worked. Okay, she whispered. I don't understand anything right now. Her voice softened. But I trust you, that was new. Not loud faith, not confident faith, but real faith. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. She closed the Bible gently, holding it close for a moment. Then she stood. The ranch waited outside like it always did. Work didn't stop. Life didn't pause just because her heart had changed. But she stepped into it differently. As she walked out, the morning air felt fresh against her skin. The sun sat higher now, the light warmer. She inhaled deeply. Thank you, she said quietly. Not for everything being fixed, but for not being alone anymore. Distance begins. Derek was by the truck again. Same spot. Same posture. Same energy. About time, he muttered. You're always behind. Sarah paused. Yesterday, those words would have settled into her, defined her. Today, they didn't stick the same way. I'm here now, she said calmly. He glanced at her, slightly thrown off by her tone. What's your problem today? He asked. Sarah shook her head gently. I don't have one, and for the first time, she meant it. Derek scoffed. Whatever. But something had shifted. Not in him, in her. She didn't chase his approval. She didn't defend herself. She didn't shrink. She just worked. And strangely, that silence said more than any argument ever could. A soft answer turns away wrath. Proverbs 15:1. Cutting ties without drama. Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed. Maddie. Sarah looked at the screen for a long moment. Old Sarah would have answered instantly. Apologized. Explained. Tried to fix it. But now? She paused. Then opened the message. You were being dramatic yesterday. You made everything awkward. Sarah read it once, then again, and instead of pain rising, there was clarity. She typed slowly. I'm not angry, but I'm not going to keep putting myself in places where I'm not respected. She stared at the message, heart steady, hands calm, then hit send. No overthinking, no fear, just truth. Let your yes be yes, and your no, no. Matthew 5:37. Maddie didn't respond, and for once, that didn't shake her. The healing isn't loud. That evening, Sarah found herself back on the porch. The same chair, the same view, but a different heart. The Bible rested open in her lap, the pages moving slightly in the breeze. She wasn't reading fast, not trying to understand everything, just sitting with it, letting it speak, letting it change her, slowly. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. She leaned back slightly, looking out across the land. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't trying to escape her life. She was present in it. And then, something happened. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but important. A truck pulled up slowly near the edge of the property. Not Derek's, not anyone she recognized. She sat up slightly, watching. A man stepped out. Tall, calm, not rushed, not loud. There was something different about him, not just how he looked, how he carried himself. Steady, grounded, peaceful. He walked with purpose, but without pressure, like someone who wasn't trying to prove anything. Sarah watched quietly. Something in her spirit, not her emotions, her spirit, noticed. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you. Isaiah 26:3. She didn't know his name, didn't know why he was there, but something felt different. Not like Derek, not like the chaos she was used to. This felt safe, not familiar, but right. The man glanced up briefly toward the house. Their eyes didn't fully meet, but something passed in that moment. Not attraction, not yet. Recognition, like two different worlds, about to cross. Sarah looked back down at her Bible, her heart steady. God, she whispered. A small smile formed. What are you doing? The wind moved gently across the porch, and for the first time, she didn't need the full answer. Because she trusted the one who was writing the story. The next morning felt steady. Not perfect, not magical, but steady. Sarah stood at the sink, rinsing her hands, watching the water run over her fingers. Simple moment. But even that felt different now. Her thoughts weren't racing. Her chest wasn't tight. Her mind wasn't replaying every word someone had said to her. Instead, there was space. And in that space, peace. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you. Isaiah 26:3. She dried her hands slowly, glancing out the window toward the open land. The memory of yesterday came back to her. The truck, the man, the quiet presence. Something about it stayed with her, not in a distracting way, but in a noticing way. She shook it off gently. "Focus," she whispered. This wasn't about a man, not anymore. This was about God rebuilding her. An unexpected meeting. By midday, the sun sat high and warm over the ranch. Sarah walked toward the barn, carrying a bucket, her boots pressing firmly into the dirt with each step. As she pushed the barn door open, she stopped. He was there. The same man from yesterday, standing beside one of the horses, calm, focused. He wasn't rushing, wasn't forcing anything, just present. He gently adjusted a strap near the horse's side, speaking softly to it. Not loud enough to hear the words, but enough to feel the tone. Kind, steady, respectful. Sarah stood still for a second longer than she meant to. He noticed. Slowly, he turned. Their eyes met. Not intense, not dramatic, just real. "Hey," he said. His voice matched everything about him. Calm, grounded. "Hi," Sarah replied, stepping forward slightly. There was no awkward rush to fill the silence, no pressure, just space. "I didn't know anyone else was working this side today," she said. He nodded once, helping out for a few days. His words were simple. No need to impress, no need to explain everything. "I'm Sarah," she said. "Micah," he replied. The name settled. Micah. He has shown you, oh man, what is good, to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Micah 6:8. She didn't know the verse yet, but the name would come to mean something later, a different kind of presence. Sarah set the bucket down, moving toward another stall, trying to stay focused, but she couldn't ignore it. The difference. No tension, no sharp words, no feeling like she had to prove something. Just calm. After a few moments, Micah spoke again. "You've been working here long?" "Most of my life," she answered. He nodded. "Feels like home then?" Sarah paused. That question hit deeper than he probably intended. "It used to," she said quietly. He didn't push, didn't ask more, just acknowledged it with a small nod. And that alone felt respectful. Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, James 1:19. The first sign. A little later, Sarah stepped outside for air. The sun was starting to dip slightly now, casting long shadows across the land. She walked toward the side of the barn, then stopped again. Micah stood a few feet away, but this time, he wasn't working. He was still. Head slightly bowed, hands resting loosely in front of him. Eyes closed. Sarah blinked. He wasn't on his phone, wasn't distracted. He was praying. Right there. In the open. Not for show, not loud. Just real. Her chest tightened slightly. Not from pain. From recognition. That same stillness. That same presence she felt in the field. She didn't interrupt. Didn't move. Just watched. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Matthew 6:6. He finished after a moment, opened his eyes, and saw her. For a second, there was silence. Then, no embarrassment, no awkwardness, just honesty. "Sorry," he said. Didn't mean to make it weird. Sarah shook her head quickly. No, it wasn't weird. She hesitated. Then added, "It was peaceful." He studied her for a brief second, not judging, just seeing. "You pray?" he asked gently. The question felt different than anything she'd been asked before. Not invasive, not demanding, inviting. Sarah swallowed. "I just started," she admitted. Micah nodded slowly. "That's a good place to start. No pressure, no expectations, just encouragement, a safe difference." Later that evening, they worked side by side again. Not constantly talking, but not silent either. the kind of quiet that felt comfortable. At one point, Sarah dropped something. It hit the ground with a small clatter. Her body reacted instantly, tensing, waiting, for criticism, for a comment, for the usual. But instead, Micah bent down, picked it up, and handed it to her. "Got it," he said simply. No sarcasm, no insult, nothing sharp. Sarah blinked. "Thanks," she said, her voice softer now. Because this was new. Love suffers long and is kind. 1 Corinthians 13:4. She had never experienced love, or even kindness, like that consistently before. The shift in her heart. As the sun began to set, the sky filled again with gold and soft orange light. Sarah stepped outside, leaning lightly against the fence. Micah joined her a moment later. Not too close, not distant, balanced. "You like sunsets?" he asked. She smiled slightly. "I used to." He glanced at her. "What changed?" She looked out at the horizon. "Thinking, life, I guess," she said quietly. Micah nodded. "Yeah, that can do it." There was a pause. Then he spoke again. "But God has a way of restoring things we stop seeing." That hit her. Because that's exactly what was happening. Slowly, quietly, she looked back at him. "You really believe that?" she asked. He met her eyes. Steady. Certain. "I've lived it. No long speech. No pressure. Just truth. And I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." Joel 2:25. Sarah looked back at the sunset, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't just see the end of the day, she saw beauty again. A new beginning. That night, Sarah sat on her porch again, Bible open, heart steady. She wasn't thinking about Derek, wasn't thinking about Maddie. She wasn't even thinking about Micah in a romantic way. But she noticed something important. Peace had a new shape now. It looked like quiet moments, honest conversations, respect, presence, things she never had before. "God," she whispered softly. A small smile formed. "This feels different." The wind moved gently around her, and deep inside, she knew. This wasn't just about meeting someone new. This was about becoming someone new. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. 2 Corinthians 5:17. And for the first time, she believed it. The mornings didn't feel heavy anymore. Not like before. They weren't perfect. Sarah still had moments, small flashes of doubt, old thoughts trying to rise back up like ghosts of who she used to be. But they didn't control her anymore. They passed. Like clouds instead of storms. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. 2 Corinthians 10:5. She was learning, not all at once, not perfectly, but steadily. A different kind of day. The ranch felt alive that afternoon. Wind moving through the fields, horses shifting slowly across the land, the rhythm of work continuing like it always had. But Sarah moved differently now. There was intention in her steps, calm in her breathing, and when she saw Micah near the fence line, her heart didn't race, it settled. "Hey," she said, walking up beside him. He looked over, a small smile forming. "Hey." Simple, easy, no pressure. "You heading out to check the far fence?" he asked. "Yeah," she nodded. "You?" "Same." There was a brief pause. Then, they walked together. Not planned, not forced, just natural. The space between words. For a while, they didn't talk much, just the sound of boots on dirt, wind moving across open land. And strangely, that silence felt safe. Not like the silence she used to know, not the kind filled with tension or fear. This silence had peace in it. Better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. Proverbs 21:19. Sarah didn't fully understand the verse yet, but she understood something real. Peace mattered. More than attention, more than words, more than trying to be wanted. Peace meant everything now. Opening up. They reached the far fence line, stopping near a worn wooden post. Micah crouched slightly, checking the wire. Sarah leaned against the post, watching the horizon. After a moment, she spoke. "I wasn't always like this." The words came out quietly. Micah didn't look up right away, didn't interrupt, just listened. "I used to chase people," she continued. "Try to be what they needed, fix things, hold everything together." Her fingers traced lightly along the wood beside her, but it never worked. Micah stood slowly, brushing his hands off. "Yeah," he said. That was it. No lecture, no deep explanation, just understanding. And that made her feel seen more than anything else could. She glanced at him. "You ever been there?" she asked. This time, he paused, not avoiding, remembering. The man with a past. Micah leaned back slightly against the fence, looking out over the land. "Yeah," he said quietly, not rushed, not dramatic, just honest. "I used to think I had everything under control." Sarah turned slightly toward him, listening. "I built my life around doing things my way," he continued. "Relationships, decisions, everything." He exhaled slowly, "And it cost me." His voice didn't carry bitterness, just truth. "I lost people. Made choices I wish I could take back. Thought I was strong enough to carry it all on my own." Sarah's chest tightened slightly. That sounded familiar. "What changed?" she asked softly. Micah looked down for a moment, then back out at the horizon. "I hit a point where I couldn't fix it anymore," he said. Her heart skipped. That sounded exactly like where she had been. "I remember sitting alone one night," he continued, "thinking I had ruined everything." His voice lowered. "And that's when I finally stopped trying to control it and gave it to God." Sarah's breath slowed. That moment, that surrender, she knew it. "I didn't hear a voice," he added, "but I felt something shift." He glanced at her briefly. "Peace." That word again. "The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." Exodus 14:14. Sarah felt it all over again. That night in the field, that stillness, that calm. "I felt that too," she said quietly. Micah nodded. "Then you know. Trust isn't loud." They stood there for a moment longer. Something deeper had been shared now. Not surface conversation, not pretending. Truth. And truth builds something slowly. Trust. Sarah shifted slightly. "I'm still learning," she admitted. Micah gave a small smile. "We all are. No judgment, no expectations, just space to grow." Being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it. Philippians 1:6. A moment that matters. As they walked back toward the ranch, the sun began to dip again, golden light stretching across the land. Sarah glanced at Micah. "I used to think love meant holding on no matter what," she said. He looked over slightly. "And now?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "Now I think love should feel like peace, not pressure." Micah nodded slowly. "That's a good way to put it." There was a pause. Then he added, "Real love doesn't pull you away from who God is building you to be." That settled deep. Because everything she had before did exactly that. Do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good habits. 1 Corinthians 15:33. The shift becomes real. That night, Sarah sat on the porch again. The Bible open, the sky dark, the air still. But something was different now. She wasn't just healing. She was growing. Learning what was right, what was healthy, what was God-centered. "God," she whispered softly. Her voice steady. "Thank you. Not just for the peace, not just for the healing, but for showing her what real looks like. Not perfect, but real. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart." Psalm 37:4. She closed her eyes for a moment, and for the first time, she didn't feel afraid of the future. Because she wasn't chasing it anymore. She was walking with God into it. Peace doesn't disappear all at once. It gets tested. The morning started like the others. Quiet, steady, grounded. Sarah stepped outside, the cool air brushing against her skin as the sun began its slow climb over the horizon. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing. "Thank you," she whispered softly. It had become a habit now, not forced, not rehearsed, real. In everything give thanks, 1 Thessalonians 5:18. She turned toward the barn, ready for the day. And that's when she saw it. The truck. Her steps slowed. Because she knew that truck. Her chest tightened instantly. Not like before, not overwhelming, but present. Derek. He stepped out slowly, shutting the door behind him like he belonged there. Like nothing had changed. Like he hadn't broken her. Sarah stood still, her heart steady, but alert. This was it. The test. The old voice returns. "Hey." His voice sounded the same. Casual. Almost familiar. Like everything between them could be picked back up without consequence. Sarah didn't move closer. "Why are you here?" she asked. No anger, no shaking, just truth. Derek smirked slightly. "Can't come see my girl?" That sentence used to melt her, used to pull her right back in. "Not anymore. I'm not your girl," she said calmly. The words surprised even her. But they didn't feel forced. They felt right. Derek's expression shifted slightly. "Since when?" he asked. Sarah held his gaze. "Since I realized I deserve better than how you treated me." Silence. Not loud, but heavy. "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty by which Christ has made us free." Galatians 5:1. The pull of the past. Derek stepped closer. "Come on, Sarah," he said, his tone softening. "I was just going through stuff. You know that." She felt it then. The pull. Not strong, but familiar. The old version of her would have stepped forward, would have accepted the excuse, would have chosen comfort over truth. Her heart beat a little faster. But she didn't move. "You didn't just go through stuff," she said quietly. "You hurt me." Derek sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, but you know I didn't mean it like that. That line, that excuse, it used to work. Do not be deceived." Galatians 6:7. Sarah shook her head gently. "It doesn't matter how you meant it," she said. "It matters what you did." That landed. And for the first time, Derek didn't have an immediate response. The real battle is internal. But the hardest part wasn't what Derek said. It was what her mind tried to whisper. What if he changes? What if you're being too hard? What if this is your chance to fix it? The thoughts came fast, old patterns trying to rebuild. But then, another voice. Not loud, not forceful, clear. "Remember who you are now." Sarah inhaled slowly. "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Romans 12:2. She wasn't the same girl anymore. Not the one who begged to be chosen. Not the one who stayed in pain just to feel loved. She had changed. Because God had changed her. The decision. "I'm not going back to that," she said. Derek frowned. "To what?" Sarah looked at him, not with anger, not with hate, but with clarity. "A version of myself that didn't know her worth." The words settled between them. Derek let out a short laugh, but there was no confidence in it. "So what, you're just different now?" he asked. Sarah nodded slightly. "Yes, simple, certain, no need to explain everything. Therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed." John 8:36, the final push. Derek stepped closer again. "You really think you're better off without me?" he said. That question used to shake her. Not anymore. Sarah didn't hesitate. "I know I am." Silence, the kind that closes a door, not angrily, but completely. A witness to the change. Behind her, she heard footsteps. She turned slightly. Micah. He had just walked up from the side of the barn. He didn't step in, didn't interrupt, didn't try to take over. He just stood there, present, respecting her moment. That alone spoke louder than anything else. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. John 15:13. Derek noticed him. His expression hardened slightly. "Oh, I see," he muttered. "That's what this is." Sarah shook her head. "No," she said. "This is me choosing something better." That truth cut deeper than any argument could. The walk away. Derek looked at her for a long moment, trying to find something, a crack, a weakness, but it wasn't there anymore, not in the same way. He exhaled sharply, whatever he said, then turned, got in his truck, and drove off. Just like that. No dramatic ending, no big explosion, just gone. But this time, she didn't feel empty, she felt free. "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing," Psalm 30:11 drool, after the test. The silence that followed felt different, not heavy, not painful, peaceful. Sarah exhaled slowly. Micah stepped a little closer, still giving her space. "You okay?" he asked gently. Sarah nodded. "Yeah." And this time, it was true. Not forced, not pretending. Real. She looked out at the open land. "I didn't think I'd ever say no to him," she admitted. Micah nodded. "God changes things like that." She smiled slightly. "Yeah, he really does." The new foundation. That evening, Sarah sat on the porch again, Bible open, heart steady. But something had changed permanently now. She wasn't just healing. She had passed the test, not perfectly, but faithfully. "Blessed is the man who endures temptation," James 1:12. She closed her eyes. "God, thank you for giving me the strength to walk away." The wind moved gently around her, and deep inside, she knew. She wasn't going backward anymore, only forward. With him. The ranch felt different now, not because the land had changed, but because Sarah had. The same fields stretched wide under the morning sun. The same wind moved gently through the grass. The same rhythm of life continued. But inside her, there was no chaos anymore. There was peace. "Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace, always in every way." 2 Thessalonians 3:16. She stood by the fence, watching the horses move freely. A small smile rested on her face, not forced, not temporary, real. She didn't wake up thinking about Derek anymore, didn't replay old conversations, didn't question her worth, because that question had already been answered by God. "I have loved you with an everlasting love," Jeremiah 31:3. Not rushed, but right. Micah walked up beside her, his presence as steady as ever. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, glancing over with a soft smile. No nerves, no pressure, just peace. They stood there for a moment, watching the horizon. "I was thinking," Micah said after a while. Sarah raised an eyebrow slightly. "That's always interesting," she teased gently. He chuckled. But then his tone shifted, still calm, but more intentional. "I don't want to rush anything," he said. Sarah turned toward him fully now, listening, "but I also don't want to pretend like something isn't growing here." Her heart didn't race. It settled deeper, because this wasn't emotional pressure. It was clarity. "I feel that too," she said softly, and that was enough. No dramatic declarations, no overwhelming feelings, just truth. Love suffers long and is kind, does not seek its own, 1 Corinthians 13:4-5. A different kind of love. They began spending more time together. Not constantly, not clingy, but intentionally. Working side by side. Reading scripture, talking about life honestly. No games, no confusion. One evening, they sat on the porch together. The sky painted in soft orange and gold again. Sarah held her Bible open in her lap. "I used to think love was supposed to feel intense all the time," she admitted. Micah leaned back slightly. "Yeah," he said. "A lot of people think that." She shook her head gently. "But intense just meant unstable," she said. He nodded. "Real love feels like peace, not pressure." Sarah smiled. That's exactly what I've been learning. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. The foundation is God. Micah reached over, tapping lightly on her Bible. This has to stay first, he said. Not controlling, not demanding, just true. Sarah nodded. It will, she said. And she meant it. Because this time, she wasn't building her life around a person. She was building it on God and allowing someone to walk beside her. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Psalm 127:1. A moment that defined everything. A few days later, Micah asked her to walk out toward the open field, the same place, where everything had broken, where everything had begun. Sarah's steps slowed slightly as they reached it. Memories flooded back. The pain, the tears, the surrender. She looked down at the ground. This is where I met God, she said softly. Micah didn't speak right away. He just stood beside her, respecting the moment. Then, he said, "Then this is holy ground for you." Her eyes filled slightly. Because he understood, not just her now, but her journey. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. Exodus 3:5. Intentional love. Micah turned toward her, his expression calm. Serious. "I want to do this the right way," he said. Sarah held his gaze. "What does that look like to you?" she asked. He didn't hesitate, putting God first. Always. A pause, not rushing, not forcing anything. Building something that lasts, not something that feels good for a moment. Sarah's heart felt full. Because that's exactly what she needed. Not excitement, stability. "I want that too," she said. And that was it. No big moment, no dramatic scene. Just two people, choosing the same foundation. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? Amos 3:3. A love that heals. Over time, Sarah noticed something. She didn't feel like she had to change herself around Micah, didn't feel like she had to earn his attention, didn't feel like she had to prove anything. She could just be. And that was healing in itself. Perfect love casts out fear. 1 John 4:18. Who she has become. That night, Sarah sat alone again on the porch. Not lonely, just reflecting. Her Bible open, her heart full. She thought about who she used to be. The girl who stayed too long. The girl who begged to be loved. The girl who felt like she was never enough. And then, she thought about who she was now. Strong, peaceful, rooted in God. She smiled softly. "Thank you," she whispered. Because this, all of this, was something only God could have done. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Proverbs 18:22. But Sarah understood something deeper now. Before she could be found, she had to be restored. The sunrise looked different now. Not because the sky had changed, but because Sarah had learned how to see again. Golden light stretched across the open land, touching every hill, every fence, every quiet corner of the ranch. And this time, she noticed it. Really noticed it. She stood on the porch, Bible in hand, a soft breeze moving through her hair. Her heart wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Psalm 118:24. There was a time she couldn't imagine feeling like this. A time when mornings felt like something to survive, not something to embrace. But God had done something in her. Not overnight, not all at once, but faithfully. He rebuilt her. A new life, with purpose. Life on the ranch continued. The work didn't stop. The days still required effort. But now, there was purpose in it. Sarah wasn't just going through the motions anymore. She was living intentionally. And something unexpected began to happen. People started noticing. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. A young girl from a nearby ranch started showing up more often, helping with small things, watching Sarah carefully. Her name was Lila. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, Lila finally spoke. "How do you stay so calm?" Sarah paused. That question felt familiar, because not long ago, she had asked it herself. She looked at Lila gently. "I didn't always," she said. Lila frowned slightly. "Really?" Sarah nodded. "I used to feel like everything was falling apart all the time." She set the tools down, leaning lightly against the fence. "I thought I had to fix everything, be everything, hold everything together." Her voice softened. "But I couldn't." Lila listened closely. "So what changed?" she asked. Sarah smiled slightly. "I met Jesus. Simple, but powerful. Therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed." John 8:36. From broken to built. Later that evening, Sarah sat in the same field where everything had once collapsed. The same ground, the same sky, but she wasn't the same girl. Micah walked up beside her, sitting down quietly. "You've been coming out here a lot," he said. Sarah smiled. "It reminds me where I started." He nodded. "That matters." She looked out across the land. "I used to think this was where I lost everything," she said. A small pause. "But it's actually where I found everything." Micah smiled. "God works like that, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God." Romans 8:28 KV. A love that points to God. Their relationship had grown, not rushed, not forced, but strong, built on truth, on faith, on God. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Micah looked at her with quiet intention. "I don't just care about you," he said. Sarah met his eyes. "I respect who God has made you." Her heart softened deeply. "Honoring. I feel the same," she said. And that was enough. Because this love didn't replace God, it reflected him. Two are better than one, for if they fall, one will lift up his companion. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10, the girl she used to be. That night, Sarah stood alone again on the porch. The sky stretched endlessly above her, stars shining quietly. She closed her eyes for a moment and remembered the pain, the confusion, the loneliness, the girl who thought she wasn't enough. Tears filled her eyes slightly, but not from hurt, from gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, because she understood now. God didn't just take her out of something. He brought her into something better. He lifted me out of the pit of despair and set my feet upon a rock. Psalm 40, 2 NL adapted, NKV meaning retained. Her calling. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and Sarah began doing something she never expected. She started helping others, not perfectly, not as someone who had all the answers, but as someone who had been there. Girls who felt broken, girls who stayed too long, girls who didn't know their worth. She sat with them, prayed with them, spoke truth over them, not her truth, God's truth. Go therefore and make disciples, Matthew 28:19b. The final truth. One evening, standing in that same field, the wind moving softly across the land, Sarah looked up at the sky, and this time, there was no question, only understanding. "I was never too much," she said softly. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I was just giving myself to the wrong people." She smiled through it. "But you never walked away. I will never leave you nor forsake you." Hebrews 13:5. Final message, powerful closing, call to action. If you've ever felt like Sarah, like you're too much, or not enough, like you keep giving your heart to people who don't value it, hear this. God is not asking you to fix yourself first. He's asking you to come to Him as you are. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28 GV. You don't have to chase love. You don't have to earn it. Because the greatest love already chose you. And when you let God heal you, He won't just restore your heart. He'll show you who you were always meant to be. The end.